Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, Master's in Counseling Psychology, longtime astrologer, psychic healer, and yogi. In this episode, I'm going to discuss what is the fifth dimension and how can we access it. It seems like it's a new age buzzword that everyone is talking about, but no one seems to really know what it is. Stay tuned as I share my years of wisdom from tuning into the higher dimensional frequencies. Welcome to the episode on fifth dimensional consciousness. It's all the rage in New Age speak, but few seem to be able to describe what they mean by the fifth dimension and how can we access it, work with it, and make our lives better as a result of connecting to these higher frequencies. Seems like it's being battered around by internet spiritual teacher wannabes who don't have a clue what they're talking about and haven't lived or experienced fifth dimensional consciousness. The easiest way I can describe the fifth dimensional consciousness is that we are in the world, but not of it. We are aligned to our higher self, and our life flows with ease and grace. Things come to us as we need them, and we have an inner confidence or assurance that the universe is taking care of us. So it really is about the three words, flow, grace, and peace. Embodying those. And so there are things you have to do to access those states in order to align with fifth dimensional consciousness. I've been studying higher consciousness for years in this lifetime, as well as many past lives, seeking esoteric wisdom as evidenced through all my past life regression work. Barbara Hand Clow is hands down the best teacher that I have studied with over the years, who seemed to really know what she was talking about when it came to fifth dimensional consciousness, as well as up to 9-dimensional multi-consciousness. Recently, I was happy to see Barbara as a guest on the show Open Minds on the Gaia channel, where she discussed her latest book series, as well as explaining the Aquarian Age and stepping back into her role as an Aquarian Age teacher, sharing information to assist others in shifting consciousness. She's been doing this for a long time. Barbara Hand Clow is an Aquarian Age teacher, astrologer, author, and former publisher and founder of Bear Books, a well-known metaphysical publishing company. Barbara is the author of a book called The Alchemy of the 9 Dimensions, where she explains the new paradigm of 9-dimensional consciousness. I had the honor and pleasure of attending Barbara's workshops back in the 1990s and 2000s, where she taught from her book, The Palladian Agenda and the Alchemy of 9 Dimensions. I was also invited to attend her workshops as a healer in the back of the workshop room to help ground students after they accessed multi-levels of consciousness through her guided techniques. It was a trip. According to Barbara Hand Clow's paradigm of 9 dimensions, as written about in the book Alchemy of the 9 Dimensions, there are 9 dimensions of consciousness. I'll briefly explain each one. So the first dimension is the inner core of the earth, which is an iron crystal core, and the energy is of gravity. The second dimension is the space between the inner core of the earth and the surface, which is known as the telluric realm. Elementals dwell there. These are the beings who control fire, air, water, ether, earth. In Sanskrit, they have various names. For instance, the Lord of the air is Vayu, the Lord of fire is Agni, the Lord of water is Varuna, and so on. The second level, the telluric realm, the second dimension, also is where gems and crystals dwell. So there is a consciousness in all the 9 dimensions that I'm going to discuss. So crystals and gems do have a consciousness. So do elementals. That's why we can work with these beings to control the weather. The third dimension we're all familiar with. That's the dimension of linear time and space, the realm where we humans and our fellow 3D beings live. So we're all in the third dimensional matrix, which people may not realize there are people or beings that can control this. Sometimes they're called the Cabal, sometimes they're called the Illuminati, but the way that they do that is from the fourth dimension, also known as the astral plane, that encircles the planet, which is made up of thought forms of everyone on the earth, as well as the record of everything that has happened on the planet. Some may call it the Akashic Record. It also contains all the archetypes of human experience, sometimes referred to as the collective mind. The fourth dimension holds the collective unconscious, which includes archetypes and feelings. So the fourth dimension can be somewhat good if you connect with it to understand archetypes or the historical record of the planet or humans. That's where some psychics may go to read the Akashic record of the earth or of humans. However, it is not necessarily a place of light, as the fourth dimension contains both shadow and light. It is a non-physical realm. Once we leave third dimension, we get out of the physical and into more energetic and spiritual realms. But the fourth dimension is not physical and can be controlled by mind games. Some believe that this is how the global elite, also known as the Cabal, can control the minds of people on the planet. It's actually much easier than that. They just need to control the media and they can control the minds of people. The astral plane is where disembodied beings hang out. It's not to be confused with the spiritual planes. Fourth dimension is where disincarnated souls who are trapped hang out in this astral plane. This is where we get hauntings from. The beings here are still trapped in a dimension connected to Earth, but not in physical form. They usually have some attachment still to the Earth plane and haven't been able to transition to the higher spiritual realms. Black magic and dark forces like to dabble in the astral plane or fourth dimension. There can be some level of control of the earth plane from here. Some occult types would mess around in the astral plane to manipulate outcomes. So it's not a good thing to hang out in the astral plane. It can be mucky, and as one healer I know would say, the astral plane has a certain distasteful smell to it. But once we pop through from the fourth dimension, we begin to get to the higher dimensions of light and the divine ones, as well as the galactic council or enlightened beings that oversee the consciousness awakening on the earth, as well as helping to usher in the increasing frequencies of light beaming into the planet. So, here is the fifth dimension, much heralded. It is a dimension of unconditional love connected to the heart chakra, being in the flow, allowing grace to pour in, and being in a divine connection. Barbara Hand Clow said that the fifth dimension is overseen by the Pleiadians, or from the Pleiades star system, beings of light. It is a place of love and unity consciousness, and I'm going to discuss the fifth dimension later in detail. The sixth dimension is one of sacred geometry or morphic fields, Plato's world of forms. In order for something to come into being, it must take form. Sacred geometrical forms contain light frequencies while holding these structures in an energetic form that can be manifested once on planet Earth. Those beings from the star system Sirius have a connection with the sixth dimension. The seventh dimension is that of sound, creating form and contains galactic information. This is the frequency of light. Think the music of the spheres, or angelic music. This is the realm of angels and archangels. When we chant sacred Sanskrit mantras, we connect to the seventh dimension. When we do any form of sound healing, we access the seventh dimension. Prayers and chants connect us to the seventh dimension. Eighth dimension is that of light and the divine mind. It is a high spiritual realm. It is where the ascended masters dwell, such as Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Divine Mother, Lakshmi, gods and goddesses of most religious traditions. This is a very spiritual realm infused with divine light. Our prayers reach the eighth dimension as well. Those beings who look out for us from higher spiritual realms dwell here. And then we get to the ninth dimension, which is really beyond description. Barbara Hand Clow related it to the Mayan Tolkien or calendar. It is also known as the source or galactic center. Now, these dimensions are not hierarchal. They're all existing at once, and thus multi-dimensional consciousness is many dimensions of reality existing all at once, not in a hierarchical form, not that you have to go through one to get to the next. So you can be here on planet Earth having your very earthly experience in 3D, access fifth dimension through the heart-centered connection, but be chanting mantras and be connecting with the seventh dimension of sound, as well as feeling the presence of the celestials or divine ones, such as Krishna or Jesus, and thus be connected to the eighth dimension. So you see, we can be experiencing at any time several dimensions. We are not in linear time and space when we start getting beyond the third dimension. So let's go back to the fifth dimension. This is a higher dimension of Earth. It is as if Earth split away from the third dimensional matrix, and it is existing simultaneously on a higher vibration that is less dense, very elevating of mood and consciousness. And when one is in the fifth dimensional frequency, one feels very aligned with flow and grace and peace. Things that are in alignment with one self or soul manifest quickly on the fifth dimension as there is no mind work involved. You can't conjure up your manifestations. That is an old paradigm of 3D. On the fifth dimension, it is a heart-centered reality. Therefore, to manifest and access it, we must keep the emotions balanced and calm. And there has to be a lot of healing of the subconscious and psychological patterns. A fifth dimensional person is no longer affected by the polarity of the third dimension, us versus them, black or white, Republican or Democrat, vaxxed or unvaxxed. So it's interesting that all this polarity had been coming up in the last years here on the third dimension. I think it's really testing and challenging people. You want to stay here in 3D, or do you want to evolve beyond it into the fifth dimension of no polarity, but oneness? So when we're living as a fifth dimensional human, we naturally will have a highly developed intuition. Just know what to do, and just knowing what is coming to us. It's not even a forced efforting. It just comes to you, what we call drop-ins. And you know what to do and when to do it. And there is this sense of being in the flow and aligned with the universe. In the fifth dimension, one feels unconditionally loving to self and others. It's important to integrate shadow and calm fear in order to get into 5D. There is no ego in the fifth dimension and no attachment to outcomes or no preferences how one may want something to work out. That is still coming from ego. So there's an alignment with universal flow or a cosmic consciousness that shows us the way when we're living in a fifth dimensional frequency. We live from the heart. Therefore, the heart must be open. We listen to the heart, not the mind. Remember, the mind and ego must be the servants of the heart and not the other way around. Heart knowing guides the way and decisions that must be made in the fifth dimension. One is centered in unconditional love and able to watch their own lives as if watching a movie, what's also known as witness consciousness or witness perspective. And one can participate if one likes in that movie of their life and be an actor in it, or just watch things unfold without manipulation. So there is a lighter version of self. The actual physical body cells get sped up in the fifth dimension. So there can be what is known as miracles happening on a daily basis. And there can even be miraculous healings of physical form on so many levels, whether it's mental or physical. Certain diseases can be eradicated immediately when aligning to source, and other miracles can happen. So let's talk about the earth, because as I mentioned earlier, we have the third dimensional earth, and at the same time, we have the fifth dimensional earth, all occurring simultaneously. Mother Earth's electromagnetic frequencies support us. We need to calibrate our own electromagnetic frequency with Mother Earth so we can feel supported. And when we do, we experience radiant health when we align our heartbeat to the heartbeat of Gaia, and abundance can flow to us. Let's talk about the heartbeat of the earth. This is called the Schumann resonance, known as Mother Earth's heartbeat by indigenous people. The frequency of the Schumann resonance is 7.83 hertz. The frequency of 7.83 hertz also corresponds to an alpha theta brainwave in a human brain, which is a Zen-like frequency. If you're unfamiliar with the brainwave model, let me explain. This is very important for knowing when someone is capable of going into a hypnotic state. So our waking consciousness brainwave that we function in when we're walking around, doing work, taking care of tasks, and doing the business of the day is the first level brainwave called beta brainwaves. Highly functional and leaning toward left brain thinking or logical and practical thinking. Beta is the most prominent brainwave we function on in our busy modern lifestyles, and also causes many problems if we spend more time in it than we should. We will experience stress and overwhelm. When the brain is aroused and strongly engaged in mental activities, it generates beta waves. These beta waves are of relatively low amplitude and are the fastest of brain waves. So some examples of being in a beta state are being engaged in active conversation, debating, negotiating, teaching and speaking, being deeply focused on a task, decision making and problem solving. While in a beta state, it's great for our productivity, concentration, alertness, improved logic, reasoning, and critical thinking. Then we go into an alpha state. And an alpha state is more relaxed. We can reach it by doing things such as going for a light walk, practicing yoga and meditation, the state before we fall asleep. It allows us to be very creative. It's also the place where connecting the conscious to the subconscious mind. When in an alpha state, we can experience reduced anxiety and we can lower our blood pressure. It's a highly suggestible part of the brain. This is where we use for hypnotherapy. There's increased endorphin and dopamines in alpha state. So it's a relaxing state, sort of when we're meditating. But the real deeper state comes in theta. Theta brainwaves are of even greater amplitude and slower frequency. The brain hemispheres of right and left are synchronized. Meditation takes you into a theta state. Daydreaming and dreaming while sleeping are both activating the theta state. When you're in the theta, you feel a sense of inner peace and emotional stability, deep relaxation, better sleep, improved memory, release of beneficial hormones related to health and longevity, and overall bliss and contentment. And then the deepest state is delta. This is a very deep state. We go into it during very deep sleep. It improves the hippocampus function, induces a deep state of body relaxation, and promotes the release of human growth hormone. When we get down to the alpha theta brainwave, we go into a pseudo-altered state that feels very dreamy and relaxed. These are the brainwaves under which someone can be hypnotized. When we reach this state, we can connect deeper to Mother Earth, who is transitioning into a fifth dimensional frequency. When we are running around stressed or in beta state, we can't access the fifth dimensional consciousness. When we come back, I'll share the ways to activate and access your fifth dimensional consciousness. Here are some ways that you can activate and access your fifth dimensional consciousness, which will allow you to be in the flow of your life and receive exactly what you need when you need it. The first thing you need to do is clear your emotional body. And a lot of times it has to do with letting go of the past. This includes deep healing of wounds from the past or healing the wounded inner child or younger selves. One must do some deep inner work or healing on the subconscious, including patterns of sabotage, addiction, and guilt. So in other words, you can't do spiritual bypass to get to the fifth dimension. Deep shadow work and psychological healing must occur so the emotional body can be in equanimity. Don't get stuck in hurt feelings or resentments or dramas. Take nothing personally when others act out. Don't get hung up on past misgivings of would've, should've, could'ves. Release grudges toward people and situations. Understand that whatever life has brought you thus far, the good, bad, and the ugly, has forced life initiations or tests that have built character and cleared karmas. You can also access the fifth dimension after doing all the healing and clearing of the emotional body by shifting into an attitude of gratitude and having an appreciation of what life has to offer. A daily practice of gratitude and thankfulness does wonders in accessing the higher dimensions, including fifth dimensional consciousness. Come from compassion. Have no judgment of self or others. We are all doing the best we can with what we have been given. Because the fifth dimension is connected to heart awareness, coming from the heart and extending compassion goes a long way in breaking free of negative thoughts about ourselves or others. Remember the saying, therefore the grace of God go I. Compassion is feeling the connection of all beings. It's unity consciousness. It makes me think of the Vedic prayer, Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, which translates to, from ignorance lead me to truth, from darkness lead me to light, from death lead me to immortality. Om peace, 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 may all beings everywhere be happy. So wanting all others to be happy and thriving is a way to the fifth dimension. Another way to connect to fifth dimensional consciousness is to pursue consistent spiritual disciplines, such as meditating, praying, or chanting at the same time every day. Consistency is important. Perhaps doing sun salutations as the sun rises or any other form of devotion is a very powerful way to connect to the light. beaming in from our sun from the higher dimensions of consciousness. It is especially powered to perform spiritual disciplines at sunrise and sunset, when the vibrations here on the planet Earth are the strongest. In Sanskrit, this time is called sandhya, which is the best time to meditate or do spiritual practices because the flow of energy through the Sushumna Nadi, which is basically the spinal column, the body's primary energy channel, is upward during sandha, sunset, and sunrise. There are therefore greater benefits from meditation, pranayama, which is breath, and other yogic practice during sandhya, sunrise and sunset. Connecting to Source, God, the divine every day on a consistent basis is important to raise your consciousness. So along with spiritual disciplines, we have to take care of our temple. We have to pursue health disciplines if we want to access fifth dimensional consciousness. We can't be disconnected from the physical body. We do have to take care of the temple. Remember, we are what we eat or take into our body. So eating a pure, healthy diet is very good in keeping that temple clear. As Buddha said, everything in moderation. So take in plenty of exercise, fresh air, being out in nature, moving your body to improve mind and spirit. Speaking of nature, connecting to nature is very important to accessing fifth dimensional consciousness. Being in nature and noticing the beauty and wonder of nature and being in the natural world automatically shifts our vibration and aligns us to higher energies of light and healing. Trees and plants are naturally beings with consciousness. So connecting to the trees and the plants, go hug that tree, will shift your consciousness. When we live or exist in the fifth dimensional frequencies of life flowing, we feel in alignment with our higher source in emotional balance, and our body feels very good. We feel a lightness of being as we are in the world, but not of it. Manifestation can come easily in fifth dimensional consciousness. Loosely think about what you want, no striving, no attachment, no craving. Align with what you want to feel. You could say something like, wouldn't it be nice if I had this experience or this thing in my life? Then let it go. Align with the emotional feeling of how good it will feel when you have it. Taste it, touch it, smell it, be it. Align with its energy. Again, all with non-attachment at the same time. It's easier now more than ever before because the earth is ascending to fifth dimensional consciousness. Go with the flow and break free of the third dimensional matrix of what the media and other sources are telling you. Tap into your intuition and inner knowing and practice the techniques I've shared to access the fifth dimension. Enjoy the ride. I hope you enjoyed this episode on fifth dimensional consciousness. Make sure you subscribe, download, share, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine signing off, sending you higher dimensional frequencies through the quantum field.